Hey guys, let's see. Let's make sure this is working. All right, I think we got a good microphone. If any of you get on here and you can hear me, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you can hear me. But we're going to be talking about uh, time of flight, and the reason we're talking about this time of flight is I showed up to a match this weekend, and I get out and getting my stuff ready. And my buddy goes, "Hey, you've been causing quite the stir on social media." Uh, Thanks for the thumbs up, guys. All right, good to know you can hear me. So he's like, "You've been causing quite the stir on social media," and I'm like, "Well, what? Like, I don't even pay much attention to what's going on in some of the groups and everything." And he's like, "Yeah, somebody shared one of your videos, and because people were asking about like wind deflection with the 308. I mean, I primarily shoot 308, so they kind of shared that video as a reference of it because it had some nice scope camera footage, and um, somebody commented on there like, oh, "There's no way that's 800 yards." I timed it. I timed the shot, and the time of flight for a 308, and went on and on and on with that. And my buddy, he kind of came to my defense. I wasn't there. He's like, "I shot that same match with him. Like, was anybody else there? Has anybody else here even like actually shot at this range to know like that's what those targets were?" And so it was just really interesting to hear that. Um, you know, and somebody else is kind of trying to position as like, "Hey, I know this because um, I know better," or something like that. But um, I've never tried to position myself as an expert. Yeah, I know more than some shooters, but do I know more than some of these other shooters? Like, absolutely not. I've been learning a lot and sharing what I learned along the way. So, uh, I and if I ever come across like that, well, that's probably a state of arrogance for me, from my perspective. But it's funny that everybody thinks they're an expert at some level. So uh, when it comes to time of flight, obviously the further the distance, the longer it's going to take for the bullet to get to a target, right? So if you're going to sit there with a stopwatch and try to time it and determine how far uh, target is based on how long it took the bullet to get there, that's a very strange approach to being able to do it. And actually, I saw Eric Cortina; he did a nice little April Fool's video spoof on that of timing how long it took for a bullet to hit the target, and then for how far that was, he divided that by the time, and that gave him the muzzle velocity. It was like 10,000 feet per second or something was what it came out to be. Oh, that's fast. That's fast. So it's a very inaccurate way of trying to really determine something like that. Um, but I mean, like you can do on most ballistic calculators like this, my Hornady Ford off that 800 yards. I'm at 1.193 seconds for my time of flight. And I think 700 yards was right about 1 second. Yeah, 1.002. So I mean, you got like it's a split second from 7 to 800 yards, and your reaction times aren't even that fast trying to do that. So I think one opportunity that was left on the table there with that was, uh, you know, I use a front focal plane reticle. So our first focal plane reticle. So what that allows me to do is that those gradients, like those hash marks, they all stay the same distance no matter my magnification. And if you kind of pause that video that was shared, you can see how many tenths of mils wide those targets are, and that should give you a much closer idea of how um, far those targets are, because you kind of got a better idea of how big those targets are, so you can use that to get an estimate of the range. And so in that particular video, there was 100% IPSC, 66% IPSC, and a 33% IPSC that I was shooting at. And you can, when you pause it and you can count the number of little hash marks there, you'll see that the 100% was 6/10 wide, the 66 was 4/10 wide, and the 33 was 2/10 wide. And if you do the math at 800 yards, so it's like 0.36 inches per 100 yards for a tenth of a mil. So you multiply that out, times 8, it's like 2.88 or something like that. And then you multiply that by the number of mils, so 6/10 of a mil. It comes out to be the 18 inches wide, the 12 inches wide, the 6 inches wide, whatever they are. And it's perfect for 800 yards. So I think that would have been a much stronger argument from this guy's perspective. That if he would have said, well, your reticle isn't even matching up with these different target sizes for 800 yards. And I don't know, maybe he did. Like I said, I didn't watch the whole argument. I didn't even bother to look it up. So it's very interesting on that. Let me know if you guys have any questions about time of flight or anything else for that matter. Here to chat with you guys and kind of see what's on your mind. And if you didn't notice, got a new reloading room here. Kind of some more recording stuff on this side, but I decided to move into a room here in my basement to repurpose it, getting somewhere a little bit warmer, so I'm not out in the cold garage all the time. Not that the basement is super warm, but it's definitely a lot better than the rest was. So another pretty interesting thing you can see when you start to look up these time of flight stuff is there's a chart. So on the Hornady ForDoff app, there's a whole list of different values you can get: aerodynamic jump, wind trajectory, windage, like no wind, spin drift. And you see your velocity at the different ranges too. So at 800 yards, something that started at 2,665 feet per second at the muzzle had already dropped to 1,500 feet per second at 1,800 yards. So there's quite a little bit of velocity loss by the time you get to that range. So that's why we kind of get that steeper and steeper arc at longer distances. I'm a new guy. What ammo is good for target practice to competition? I like 38 special, but something that competes with. It kind of depends on what you want to do. So if you're liking 38 special, I don't know. I'm guessing you're probably not looking for brand of ammo. I'd go with whatever the best is that you can afford to shoot a lot of, because that will develop your skill as a shooter. To recommend a particular brand, I don't know. I'd be hard-fetched to try to say, Winchester or Remington or whatever it be. But whatever you can shoot the most of, because that will ultimately determine what will help you become a good shooter, is what you're able to do as you develop your own shooter skills. So try to focus there. Try to make sure that you're getting that kind of good practice in. All right. Have anything to say about weaponized tranquilizers, especially tranquilizer guns used for animal control? How far do you think they can probably shoot? I have no idea about tranquilizer guns. I mean, other than there's sometimes I think I'd like to have one, but so weaponized tranquilizers. I didn't even know they weren't legal in the U.S. Because you see them used for, like, if you get a wild animal like a mountain lion or something into a populated area, they try to go and remove them. They'll shoot them with the tranquilizer. But most situations, I'd imagine they try to get as close as possible, because that's something you still it's a big thing. You got to deliver the medicine to knock them out, and then still got to have enough energy to break it. So imagine they're not getting too far with that. You know, maybe 50 yards or something. But all right, you can't go. I mean, polymer rounds may be better than brass. I do like that. Um, People are trying to test out different methods to advance technologies and stuff. Polymer rounds, oh man, I'm a metaller, just so we studied plastics and different other materials as well, ceramics, what have you. And I just never really liked plastics. I just didn't understand them. I mean, they behave a lot differently. So like if you think about um, metal, it's kind of arranged in like ball and sphere type of models where stuff kind of really stacks on top of each other, and that's kind of how metals are mostly made up. But if you start getting into polymers, they're carbon based type of products, and those we would normally talk about as like spaghetti, of how they're intertwined. They're just like long strings of spaghetti. You pull on them, you stretch them. It's like stretching out a piece of spaghetti. So um, but there's so many different types of polymers within that that can even be varied. Would I reload one? I wouldn't, absolutely not. But maybe as they get better with the technology, develop the technology, they'll be able to do a little better with that. All right. Well, yeah. So I guess there's only a couple of people on here. Hopefully, gives you an idea. I mean, that's one man's opinion on that, Stephen. So cool. Any other questions? What you got Ford F-450? Yeah, if you guys got any questions, just let me know in the chat. Um, so, uh, I have one. Can use. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. So I shot a match this last weekend. It was kind of the warmest match I've had this year, but this winter seems to keep going on and on in the Northeast. Um, and I did not do as well as the matches that I had a lot better weather at. But I say that with respect to what I was really focused on a lot this match was going into like working on skills, spotting shots, and whatnot with that. There's Ramsey country. Um, so that was kind of the wins I was taking away. That my score, man, it really was pretty poor compared to what it should have been. But at the same time, I did a lot of the stuff that I was working on. So hoping that'll keep picking up. All right. Has anybody ever used a bullet out of tungsten? Tungsten. So tungsten's typically uh, very reactive metal. So I would say probably not. You can have like a tungsten carbide, which would stabilize it, but it would also be very hard. It's just shy of diamond in terms of its hardness. So probably not that either. Your barrel wouldn't be able to take it. You'd wear your barrel out your first shot if it would even try to make it down the barrel. Uh, am I shooting South Beaver Tactical this Saturday? No, it is Easter weekend this weekend, so I am, I guess, otherwise occupied with that sort of stuff. Cartridge am I shooting? I am mostly shooting 308. I do practice with a few other things. I've tried to get a little better at pistol. That's one that I've just historically not shot a whole lot of, so I haven't been very good with that. Um, I got enough learning to do with rifle that I kind of confused the two. But so yeah, mostly 308, especially in competitions and stuff. So I shoot tactical class in that, and I joined that tactical class because I didn't want to compete against a lot of the pro shooters who are shooting open. So they're shooting a lot of the 6BR and those variants, type of stuff. So I figured there was less of a steep competition in the tactical class, so I stuck to 308, and um, I enjoy it. Yeah, I could probably get a lot better scores if I had a 6BR or something like that, but um, I just try to compare myself against three other 308 and 223 for that matter, being in tactical class. So um, that's what I shoot. About phosphorus or white phosphorus inside of ammunition rounds. Are we, we talking about blowing stuff up here now, or what? It sounds like in some kind of incendiary round, or either that or we're trying to get some meth going, watching Breaking Bad or something. uh, Planning on shooting any Rainers long range matches this year? Do they have any? So I don't know. He probably posts them up somewhere that I'm not aware of his schedule for that. Um, so yeah, I've never been to Rainers yet. I know you've told me a few times about going down there and trying to shoot. I haven't been for whatever reason, so I have to make it out there. Um, in Ramsey Country, are you going to any MKM matches this year? How Call of Duty? I haven't played Call of Duty for 10 years. Oh man. No. So no PRS matches at Rainers. That's a little new to me. Is that new this year? Did they stop doing PRS? Because I thought they did something every month at Rainers for PRS, like not an official PRS sanction type of deal, but still that style of match is what I thought. Warzone isn't worth it. I'm going to take your word for that. Yeah. Is there a big difference in my reloading between those two scales on that shelf of yours? Is it worth the extra money? I guess I'm asked. Holy cow. Yeah. So this is the RCBS Chargemaster Lite string one, and it's about a $240 scale. And it'll measure within plus or minus a tenth of a grain, so plus or minus 0.1 of on this. It's pretty simple. You don't have to mess with it a whole lot. This here is an A&D FX120i, and it has the auto trickler from McDonald on it. So with the auto throw. And that also has the Area 419 kit for the extra accessories, thicker plates, centering level plate on the inside. So that I didn't spend this much on it. I was able to get a deal off of eBay and keep my cost way down. But that type of setup, I believe, is about $1,700. So comparing a 240 grain or $240 scale to a $1,700 scale, yes, there's a whole lot of difference. What that one will do is it'll measure down to the 0.02 grains. So you have 5 times more of the precision. That 0.02 grains is like one kernel of rifle powder. So that's the kind of precision you're getting off of that. And is it worth it? In my opinion, yes. And because the reason I got that was because I was having troubles with my velocity being all over the place. I was getting these like nodes, I would call it. They were like 20 feet per second increments. So I would have like my 7 out of 10 would be at one velocity, and then another 1 or 2 would be at like 20 feet per second higher, and then the other last one or two would be at another 20 feet per second higher yet. And the only thing that I was able to trace that back to was that RCBS scale. So that's why I went to the other one, and now I know, pretty much without a doubt that it's right on exactly where I want it to be. All right. Never shot a PRS match. Doesn't interest me. That's, yeah. Waiting on a V4. Man, those look pretty sweet. So I've seen a few people post up some videos of those. I'm not in the cool kids club yet, so I bought was a V2, and I thought it was a V3, and I had to order the board to be able to connect it to Bluetooth. Basically, that's the difference between the V2 and the V3. For the most part, there might be some other stuff, but so I would call that one a V3 now. Rayners used to do a PRS match every month, but the last 3 matches he ran last year, other people would schedule a 2-day match over top of him. That's tough, especially in PRS, because a lot of people trying to go to that. So the V3s and the V4s, for those of you who may not know, it's got like a center tube that spins kind of like the RCBS one, but then it's got like some other stuff that trickles on the side, so it all falls down into one place. But I think my opinion without trying the V4 is that I would agree. Like, I would like the auto throw and then trickle, because it's instant 40 grains and 308. And then you got to come back and add on just whatever trickle amount. If you're within a grain or something, it trickles that last grain. I would think it's very fast. So I reload on this press here for it, and it's actually fast enough that by the time I prime another round, get it in here, and run the press back up, my next powder is ready to go. So I dump the powder, set it back up there, go, and then prime another round and keep it going. So what other kind of scales do you guys use for your powders? I mean, RCBS, pretty common one. On the higher end stuff, that A&D, that's probably, I don't know. Between that, maybe a Prometheus, which Prometheus I think is like a $3,000 scale. Those are probably a couple of the top options with that. So this is kind of an economical option in comparison to that. I have heard of some. So Reloading All Day did a podcast with Keith Baker, where it was like 5 hours worth of podcast. They broke it up into 2 episodes, and in that they were talking about a scale that would actually cut kernels to get it down, get the weight to like exactly what it was supposed to be. And I don't know, that almost seems a little overboard for me, but it was a kernel trickler really at that point. So V3 takes under 10 seconds for a throw. Yeah, I would probably say mine's right in there. And part of that depends on how you have that trickler set. So that angle coming into it, if you got it up a little bit, it's going to be a little slower as opposed to down a little bit. Those will fall a little faster. That's what I've found. But if you get it too far down where they're going too fast, you can overshoot what you're aiming at. So you kind of got to find that balance of speed and precision, accuracy on that. But yeah, if it was around 15 to 18 seconds, probably still be faster than my RCBS. I think I was like at 30 seconds or something for it. But yeah. No. Charge Master Lite and an original Charge Master 1500. So, I have a good friend back from where I'm from that he runs a Charge Master. I can't remember if it's a Lite or 1500. I think it's a Lite, and he has really good results with his. Actually, I think Panhandle Precision, Sam Millard, he has run Charge Master and Charge Master Lite in a lot of his videos. I'm assuming that's what they're still doing. It looks like he's mostly reloading stuff for his son to blow it out of the water now. But yeah. So you're all now 5K, I believe. Is that Prometheus or what? That's crazy. It's just absolutely insane. Now I'm shooting 6mm GT stable. I've gone to an old Harrell's powder measure that's faster than anything. I've never heard of a Harrell's. I'll have to look that one up. But yeah, I mean, if you got some kind of like spherical powder, it's going to be a lot easier to measure out. Like these rod type of powders, like I typically use, the Vargets of the world, they're just hard to measure out if you got something that's going to do like a volumetric approach to it. I just finished my induction annealer. I was wondering if you've come up with a rule of thumb as to the time for annealing with your system. So I definitely recommend the annealing ladder. And basically, I'll try to explain that real quick, but I kind of did a whole video series on that, and I can do some more on that too. But it really depends on the cartridge and the brass, because my Winchester brass would anneal in like 2.2 seconds, but my Lapua brass takes like 4.5 seconds. So, and that would be completely different if it was 223 or 6 GT or something else. Like each one's going to be a little bit different. I think my Hornady 308 brass, it anneals in like 3 to 3.5. I can't remember exactly on it. So nothing saying like this is the anneal time for it. If you're short on time, what I would do is maybe melt a case, see how long it takes before a case starts melting, and then back off of that a little ways and roll with it. You'll probably be pretty safe going that way. It depends on your comfort level with doing that. Of course, you're running a case trying to figure out what that point is too. So Harrell's is big in bench press shooters. They go by clicks. They don't really know the actual weight of the charge. Makes sense. It sounds like one of those things that you take to the range. Well, I'm going to drop a couple more clicks of powder. Yikes. 5K for Prometheus. Okay, holy cow. Yeah, last I had heard, those were like 3K. Wow, that's crazy. So I did see a guy, and it's probably somewhere on the interwebs, that he had set up a Prometheus above his Dillon 550, and what he was able to do with that was kind of get it to where it was then automated. So it would drop automatically straight into his Dillon, so it was a much more automatic fill kind of thing. Because it's those of you not familiar with the Prometheus, it's got like a ball inside of the balance beam tray that it'll lift up and allow the powder to fall down through that. So it's kind of a pass through, whereas these are like you got to pick it up and dump it on these kind. So that Prometheus does allow that flow through on those. You can tune the Harrells to throw the weight you want. Switch watches, they're beautiful. You guys got me curious. I got to look up these Harrells now before I forget. Harrell scale. Okay. All right. I've seen those before. I just hadn't seen too many people playing with them. Ryan, do you do like bench rest type of shooting? Is that kind of your background, or you do anything along the lines of PRS or F class or ELR or anything like that? Okay. only tiny spherical powders. So I pulled apart. I don't have them in here. Hornady match. I think they were 168 grains. So it was, store bought box of ammo, and they did actually had a ball type of powder in there. I got a short somewhere where I poured that out, and you can see what was on the inside of it. And so I was actually kind of surprised. So I mean, there's definitely the ball type of powders that'll work, and different cartridges are sensitive to the different types of powder. Like if you got like a flake powder, like it's going to burn so fast. You'll see that a lot more pistol and shotgun, but that's why the rod type is a little bit more common in rifles. It's got that slower burn. Mostly PRS, NRL. Okay, cool. Okay, I don't know Spanish. Sorry. All right. Use Gem Pro 250, accurate 0.02 grain sequence. This, of course, throw with old Lyman 555. Cool. All right. Yeah, I mean, that 0.02 grains, if you can get to that, that's going to be right within your that one kernel. So if you can get one kernel accuracy, you're not going to, you could do better, but it's not going to be better than that. You're not going to be able to shoot the difference. So I've been listening to Chris Way. He has a podcast now, and I'd recommend you go check it out if you haven't. It's called Straight Dope. Man, it's really refreshing to hear what he's having to say. So, we can talk till we're blue in the face about all these differences and, equipment and reloading and stuff. All right, are we going to argue a quarter-inch group versus a 0.2-inch group? Like, are we going to argue that sort of difference on that level of accuracy? Well, we're never going to be able to shoot better than that. Just wind variation alone is going to throw us off of that. But Chris's point that I've really liked is how are your skills as a shooter able to do? So if you have your ammo and you dialed it in, now you layer in these other factors like your shooter ability and your stability in different positions. What is your likelihood of actually hitting that target? And it's pretty interesting. I did a little test with it, and you can see on Instagram. I posted some of those pictures. I actually did a short of that the other day. If that popped up for you guys, what is Chris PRS Pinterest? I think he does more NRL hunter type of stuff because he's in Colorado. So NRL is definitely a lot more common out west. PRS a lot more common in the east. Namaste. Good morning from India. Holy cow! I'm about ready to go to bed. But so Chris's podcast, yeah, he talks about a lot of those different things and kind of different things to look for with that. But he has a drill. He calls it the Craft Challenge. You can go to his website and everything and sign up and kind of see the targets. Well, so it's got like a diamond target layered, so you get bigger and bigger diamonds as you go out. And the idea is that you shoot four positions, so standing, kneeling, sitting, and prone. And then as you'll shoot 3 shots from each, but you'll break it each time and move. So you'll go standing, kneeling, sitting, prone, standing, kneeling, sitting, prone, standing, kneeling, sitting, prone. And those 12 shots, you'll look at that group size and see where you are with that. Yeah, I think he said the average is like a 3 for on there. So it's 3 MOA wide is that diamond size. So the average shooter is within that 3 MOA in doing that. And he's actually gone a step further with that since then, that you can break it out into, all right, I'm going to shoot now all my standing at this target, my kneeling at this, sitting at this, and prone at this. So you can see the differences in which position you're having the most stability troubles with, and get an idea of, all right, well, maybe my sitting position, I had 6 and everything else was 3. Well, I'm going to go work on how to figure out how to get more stable in my sitting position. So see what it does at distance. Pretty hard to see how little tack driving load plays in hitting the target. Yeah, yeah. Um, very, very humbling to see. Um, yeah, I put in a lot of time and effort, money, and all of us do reloading this stuff. And, um, you, can you get out there and actually hit the target? It humbled me this last weekend. Steel plate. So that's another good point. Some of that, and the reason I asked about your shooting discipline before was because you can shoot a steel plate and you can shoot a paper, an F class, but they're completely different type of goals. So even if you're trying to get tighter and tighter and tighter groups, that's going to probably benefit you a lot more in something like F class. But PRS, like, definitely a diminishing return because, well, did you miss because you were at a half-inch group instead of a quarter-inch group? No, your chance of missing was either you had a bad wind call, bad elevation, bad dope, bad data, or you had bad stability, you built a bad position, or anything like that. That seems to go a lot further into why may or may not hit. So that one buddy I was telling you that runs the RCBS, he was talking to Frank Galley, and Frank's like, "Man, you're shooting at steel. Like, it's good enough. You're good with it. Run with it." So there's a phrase that I like to say is, "Done is the new perfect." It gets to a certain point, you're just it's good enough. Like, it's done. Move on and go on to bigger and better things. Check out AB Analytics. It shows how little bitty groups matter. So I'm guessing you mean like how much they don't matter, or how much they do matter. I'm a little confused on the wording of that. So I saw a demonstration of the applied ballistics analytics, I think is what it was, whatever their calculator is, and they would be able to calculate hit probability from different conditions, and then it will even graph it into what are the biggest things that you need to work on with it. And it was very interesting in the way that they showed the demonstration. Your ammo, until you could get your variation in your velocities to have a standard deviation less than 5, not an extreme spread, but standard deviation, that was your biggest factor. And then kind of after that, you could go into other things depending on that. So like your wind call speed, that could have a big effect on it. In their particular demonstration I saw, it was your rifle was second after that. So, a good rifle, good ammo, and that takes care of probably 70-80% of your probability of hitting a target with the equipment side of things, not accounting shooter skills. So last Rainer's 223 308 match, 4x6 played at 906 yards. So group size matters, but you don't have to shoot the small plate. Your score just won't be as high. Yeah, that's good shooting, man. Were you shooting 223 or 308 for that? Because it's even more impressive if it was a 223. So I got my butt kicked by a guy shooting 223 this last weekend. He definitely had it on point a lot more than I had myself on point. So anybody that says that 223 won't shoot, they're full of it. I mean, yeah, it's not going to be a 6BR, but gee whiz, 223 in the hands of the right person wielding it, and it pretty effective on steel out to some significant distances. Shoot both. That match, it was 308. 223s win most of the 223 308 matches. I can believe that. I really do. Very interesting. So I shoot against a pro named Matt Steiner. I'm constantly chasing him. It's like my life's mission to beat him. he destroyed it. He got first place overall this last weekend at the match I was at. But he'll train on a 223, but he uses 308 for most of his big matches, and he even uses different loads for the different matches. So like a 2-day match, he'll use A-tips, and a 1-day match, he'll use ELDs. So, it's kind of level that those guys that shoot 15,000 rounds a year, that they get down to differentiating with that. What bullets are shooting, I'm guessing. Meant for Ramsey country on that. 23 90 grain burgers. Woo. It's big. So I think PRS limits you to like 77 grains or something on a 223, at least for tactical class. So I picked up a whole bunch of those, thought I was going to be able to shoot them out of my 223, but I didn't have the twist rate to back it up. It was a 12 twist, and I definitely needed a 7 twist. For me, my stuff, I'm shooting 178 ELDs. Ramsey's shooting 185s. I can't shoot 185s because it's a 178 limit in tactical class and PRS. So there's a 178 bullet weight limitation, and there's a 2,800 feet per second velocity limitation on the 308. So, it's very interesting. Yeah, I really like the ELDs. I practice with the Boattail Hollow Point match bullets. I got a just bulk load of those. They're cheaper. They save a little ammo. They definitely don't save any powder. They both, 308 uses a ton of powder. But think about upping my reloading game and getting that A&D and an amp annealer. It's just coming up with $3,000 and begging my wife not to leave me. Save the marriage, man. So I found that on eBay. So keep your eye out on there. Just check in every once in a while. You may see one pop up on there that somebody's wanting to get rid of. I imagine if you're going sniper's hide or something like that, that will probably just be really snapping at that kind of stuff right now. And the amp annealer, so I do have the DIY annealer course finished. I'm just got to launch it, put a few finishing touches on it here. So that'll be coming your guys' way. And man, I'd encourage you to check it out. Try building your own. Save you, $1,200 or whatever, at least $1,300. So, yeah. So that's Varget. That's what I use in my match rounds. And then in my practice rounds, I'm using IMR 3031 just because that's like the only thing that I can find on the shelves. So I've got like probably 30 or 40 pounds of IMR 3031 just ready to load up. Awesome. Vivitori. How do you like that Vivitori, Ramsey? I see that Paul Phillips, he's an ELR guy. He's, I think, big into the Vivitori. I'm probably butchering how you pronounce that, but saving Varget for 6 dashes. Man, that Varget, it's competed over so much that because it's so versatile. 6 dasher, 6 BR, 308, goes in so many different things, but it's consistent. I like it. Vitavuri. I'm butchering it. Vitavuri. Can't do it. Oh, homebrew annealer. What kind of homebrew? Induction, flame, salt bath. What kind? Vitavuri. All right, I'm gonna have to practice that. Vitavuri. Some of the other guys that are jumping in, just jump in the chats and, let me know what questions you have. We're just kind of chatting, shooting, answering some questions. So, induction, I have the burger box and everything. burger box. I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that. 308 loves it. I'm getting 2,740 feet per second with my factory Savage. And wow, 2,740 with 185s. You're pounding it. That's pretty good. So I ran 155s for a while before I got into tactical class and kind of before I knew a little bit more about what I was doing. Because it was suggested to me at the time to go faster and get a flatter trajectory. It worked. Like that, I was running upwards of 3,000 feet per second, and it would. It was probably the same trajectory category as a BR or close to at that point, just as far as like elevation at distance. But it's too fast for tactical class. There's some wind differences, changes, and stuff that. But that's actually what I hit the 1 mile shot with was those 155s at 3,000 feet per second. So, they work, but they were flying, they were smoking. 30-inch barrel. Yeah, okay, that makes a little more sense why you're able to do that. That's a long barrel. The guy on YouTube, digital timers have burger bullet box. Okay. I hadn't seen that. I'm just another guy here on YouTube that kind of tinkers with that sort of stuff. So I'll have to check that out at some point. All right, fellas. Well, I think I'm going to call it a night here. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for the chat. If you ever feel like reaching out, I don't respond to comments on videos really much at all anymore, unless it's by accident. So, if you got specific questions on anything, feel free to reach out, message me on Facebook or Instagram. I receive notifications about those, and a lot easier for me to respond to those sort of things. So, yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you guys maybe in another live stream here soon. See you guys soon.